Today we're going to be looking in this session at jobs, housing and inequality, something which I think is a really important current issue in the UK. And I think a lot of what we're going to look at today is quite surprising. By the end of the session, I hope you will have worked through looking at finding some example jobs, your take-home pay, how much housing is going to cost, mortgage payments and so on, and also inequality and what different people within the UK are feeling and what the general, average income and house will leave you with at the end of the month. I hope you've also seen that video just coming out before. Apologies, it was a little old, it was from 2012, but the same general principles do still apply. Now today, I think it's worth noting that before we start, 3.4% of households in the UK had access to food bank within the last month. So it's interesting to see that many people in the UK are not meeting their basic needs. Today we're going to be talking about mainly income you're earning from your employment and your owned assets. So for example, your wages, rent from houses and dividends from stocks and shares. But we could, it's worth noting, also talk about wealth, the value of all your owned assets, like the house, the stocks you own. And it's really important to note that wealth inequality is far greater than income inequality. And if we looked at that, we would see a slightly different picture. So it's worth contextualizing. Today, we're also going to see that we can divide our income into different types, for example, weekly, monthly, and yearly. So it's important to know what timescale you're looking at so you can compare accurately. Now, this is from the Institute of Fiscal Studies, and this is the way in which we map the population and its income, the income inequality within a certain country. So we take the bottom income earners on the left-hand side and the top income earners on the right-hand side, and we order them in terms of their income, dividing them into percentiles. And so we've got 100 percentiles there. Each of those percentiles will have around about, I say, 700,000 people, because you have 770 million people within the UK. Now, from that, you can see that around about 20% of the population, that household is earning less than £20,000. Remember, a household is 2 income earners, and it's the equivalent of not having a child. So that you can balance people together and compare them, we're assuming that they don't have children. But from that, you can see that the majority of the UK population, up to around about the 90th percentile, is earning anything from £20,000 to, let's say £60,000. Now we can put that perhaps more usefully into weekly income. And for 2023, the median income for a given person, a given household, was £621 per week. But it's interesting here because we've got the income on the X now. You can now see really where the majority of UK households lie. And you're seeing that within this 3, 4, 5 band, you're seeing 800,000 to 1 million people within each of those bars. And so you're seeing that most people in the UK are in weekly terms, are earning anything from 400, let's say, to 700 or 800 pounds a week. And that's going to be quite useful when you look at housing costs and how much a mortgage will be costing you each week. And you'll be able to locate where you are on that scale. It's worth noting that there is a large bar there on 0, and that refers to people who are unemployed. And finally, there are 3.7 million individuals with income over £1,500 per week, and we haven't measured that on the edge of the scale, and so that scale will keep on going for a very significant amount of time. In the resources that we've put together for you today, at the back of those, it's worth noting that there are QR codes to each of those resources, so you can scan them with your phones, and there are also links there as well. And I'll just go quickly through some of those resources and what they look like. So the first resource is a job website. You can use indeed.co.uk or other websites as you see fit. And from there, you'll be able to see average pay rates for different types of professions that you can put in. Now you can then take those pay rates and put them into the Institute of Fiscal Studies where you fit in tool. And what you can do with that is within these boxes, you can put in your household income. You can then put in over what period this applies. So be careful whether it's weekly, monthly or yearly, and then you can put in an amount of council tax. I've put that onto the sheet, and be careful, I think that's a monthly amount, and then press calculate. That will give you a written description of where you are as an individual and what you're equivalent to. And it can also place you on that chart there, and you can see where you are. And it's worth noting that that's a household income, so it's worth noting that because you may have 2 people within your household, but you can decide whether you would have 1 or 2 people working. It will also show you around about, in terms of inequality, what you're going to be feeling and the people around you, how many there are, and what their experience is as well. Now, if you want to take that and then see, and we're going to have that in the next thing, look what your post-tax income is, you can put your salary in that box and just be careful whether it's weekly, monthly, or yearly. You'll have options for that, and it will give you a breakdown here as a yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily income. Your gross income is your total income that your employer is paying, and then the take-home income is minus tax and national insurance. And so you'll be able to see on a weekly and monthly basis the type of income that you'd be making. And then you can use that then to think about how much you've got to pay for a house. And traditionally speaking, we've said around about a third of your income. You're around about safe if you're using a third of your income on mortgage repayments, although many people in the UK are moving toward half of their income for mortgage repayments, and that perhaps is a little unsustainable. We'll be looking at finding houses, as you can see here on Zoopla, and then at the bottom of that page you'll find a mortgage calculator where you can put in the variables and see how much you'd have to pay. Thank you for listening. I hope that that is a useful and productive exercise, and do engage in the discussion tasks as well, because I think this is really well worth reflecting on as we go through. Thank you.